Vampire Gemini, the Guardian Heart Crystal Series. Written by Amy Blankenship and R.K. Melton. Narrated by Jeff Bauer. Chapter 1. Dangerous Things. Toski watched as Kyoko rose up and leaned across the table to reach for the medieval-looking book he had opened in front of him. His amethyst eyes nearly glowed as her already low-cut shirt loosened and sagged on her shoulders before she righted her body. He was sure he would forever have the tantalizing vision of Kyoko's cleavage with the barest hint of black lace peeking out at him. He blinked, then pointed at the passage on the page he'd been telling her about. He smiled softly as their eyes met briefly, but he'd already forgotten what he'd been saying, so he just let her read. Toski squirmed a bit in his chair, trying to make his discomfort disappear, but just that one innocent peek had made his veins race with fire, and all the heat was making his jeans tight. His amethyst eyes darkened attractively as he filed the picture away for later.
You know, Kyoko, one day we will be married, because both of us know I am the only guy who would be crazy enough to think this is a hot date.
It was supposed to be a joke, but the huskiness of his voice gave away his true feelings. Kyoko flashed her emerald eyes up at him. He was probably right, though she didn't admit it or deny it, and that seemed to suit him just fine. Most of the time they were out this late together, they were killing vampires, or at least walking around in the dark making good targets for them. It was only within the last few months that he'd started pressing the issue. Everyone had labeled them boyfriend and girlfriend for as long as she could remember, even though he had never asked, and she had never agreed. Only now he wanted to add hormones to the mix. She nearly jumped out of her chair when half the lights within the library flickered off. The first thought that went through her mind was that some scheming demon had caught her not paying attention. She heard distant voices, and it dawned on her that the library was just closing down for the night. They were supposed to have left over an hour ago, but the people who work there always stayed late.
Come on, Kyoko. It's time to find the exit before it gets locked, Toski whispered, as he took her hand and quickly led her out of the building without anyone noticing they were there after hours. Part of him wondered if getting locked in with Kyoko overnight would be such a bad thing. Once out in the parking lot, Kyoko's steps slowed as she looked up at the sky, seeing the eeriness of the cloud formation around the moon. She wasn't superstitious, but it reminded her of the night scenes straight out of the horror movies, the kind of horror movies that gave her the wiggly boos. She didn't need Hollywood magic to feel the shift between good and evil. It would be a good idea for Toski to go straight home. He was a great fighter, but she depended more on her instinct, and it was telling her to get him out of there. The problem would be in getting him to agree to leave. When they reached his car, Kyoko looked up into his strangely lit eyes, knowing he was the only one besides her grandfather that actually knew her secret. She trusted him enough to let him come along on a lot of the demon hunts. He could hold his own, and never once had he given her secret away or let her down. Like today, they had looked up demons of all kinds in the newest books in the huge library. No one bothered them as they hid out in a secluded corner, and they'd had fun for hours. Get in. I'll drop you off at your house, Kyoko.
Toski held the door open for her. They were standing so close it would have been simple to lean down and kiss her, and in his mind that was just what he was doing. Knowing it would throw him off, Kyoko leaned up and gave him a quick kiss on the lips.
No, that's all right. My grandfather will be here any minute to pick me up, and I don't want him to see us out here alone together. So, you go. But call me when you get home so that I know you made it safely.
She smiled sweetly at him, hoping he wouldn't argue. Besides, he knew how overprotective her grandfather could be. Toski looked around, hoping he wouldn't see her grandfather's old truck parked somewhere in the shadows. He sighed gratefully when he counted only 3 cars. The old man had caught them together last weekend coming back from a midnight hunt at the cemetery and threatened his anatomy. The muscles in Toski's jaw flexed, knowing he would never get anywhere with her if he didn't stand up to her guard dog.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?